Coming up, creative natives on the screen, from a television station in Oklahoma to new TV shows and a documentary about Wilma Mankiller. I am Mackenzie Allen Charmley, filling in for Aaliyah Chavez. Join us for those interviews plus headlines from the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Arizona State University welcomes 3,500 Indigenous students from Arizona and across the nation. It serves one of the largest populations of Indigenous students among U.S. colleges and universities. We created a sense of place for tribal nations to create futures of their own making through community outreach and research, taught by world-class Indigenous faculty where they see a reflection of themselves and their experiences. Find community at ASU.
This is the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez.
Thank you for joining us. Aaliyah Chavez is away. Google plans to help thousands of Native students prepare for their careers. Stratotech Education Group announced its participation in the Grow with Google Indigenous Career Readiness Program. The initiative helps prepare Native students at more than 50 Native-serving organizations for the workforce through digital skills training and career workshops. Established in 2021, the Grow with Google Indigenous Career Readiness Program provides Native-serving organization career centers with funding and a semester-long in-person and online digital skills program. Over the next 4 years, the partnership will provide curriculum and trainers at tribal colleges and universities, Native American-serving non-tribal institutions, high schools, and vocational programs. Google aims to train 10,000 Native students on digital skills and career readiness by 2025. In Albuquerque, New Mexico, a foundation is returning Indigenous items to Mexico. Ancient sculptures that have been gathering dust in an Albuquerque Museum Foundation storage box are returning home. The dozen items were given to the Mexican government in a ceremony Wednesday. Olmec greenstone sculptures, a Zacatecas figure, and other objects are all tied to Indigenous communities south of the Medicine Line. Mexican officials say these pieces are important parts of its collective Native memory and identity. Following the ceremony, the items were received by the local consulate of Mexico. A tribal nation has secured a gaming license to become the first in Canada to operate a racetrack. The Moosomin First Nation in Saskatchewan is now a truck operator for thoroughbred horse racing, which is all part of the tribe's long-term vision. APTN's Leanne Sanders has the story.
This land on the northwest outskirts of Saskatoon is quiet today, but thundering hooves and all the excitement of horse racing will soon have a home here. The proposed Moosomin Downs will host thoroughbred and standardbred racing, chariot and chuck wagons, and the Indian Relay, breaking ground at the end of the summer. Moosomin First Nations Rob Woods says the racetrack is a stepping stone to other opportunities.
But our commitment is to basically move past a hobby-based business and allow for people that are going to participate and want to invest in horses and other things to know that, our goal is to turn it into a career for our young people.
In the meantime, Moosomin Downs is taking over the former Marquis Downs track in Saskatoon, running 10 days of racing starting on August 27th. The track was shut down the last 2 years due to COVID and then closed for good by its former operator. Chief Kenny Moccasin from the neighboring Soto First Nation says the closure of the track hit the horse racing community hard.
A lot of First Nation people had to take their horses to Winnipeg and also move their horses to Edmonton. But I'm sure they'll be happy to move their horses back here for the remaining of the racing season.
Leanne Sanders, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Though one Indigenous actor has had a career full of memorable roles, a character type has escaped them until now. For once, Cherokee citizen and actor Wes Studi has been cast as a romantic co-star. Among Studi's 30-year acting career, he has played vengeful warriors, dying prisoners, and impassioned resistance leaders. But one thing he had never done in a movie is give someone a kiss. In the new film, A Love Song, the actor is, for the first time, cast in a romantic role. Studi says hopefully this change has to do with creating a better understanding of Native people by the general public. The film opens in theaters today, and you can see him flexing his comedy skills in both seasons of Reservation Dogs. And those are the headlines for the ICT Newscast. Coming up, a movie in the Comanche language hits mainstream, and a Reservation Dogs cast member joins us from home, and Cheyenne and Arapaho TV turns 10. But first, meet the creatives behind the Wilma Mankiller documentary. Stay with us. At last, the critically acclaimed documentary about Wilma Mankiller has arrived to streaming. It's directed by Valerie Redhorse Moll. Producer Gail Ann Hurd is known for adventure films like The Terminator, The Abyss, Aliens, and The Walking Dead.
Well, it was about 20 some odd years ago that I was serving on the Nickel Screenwriting Committee at the Motion Picture Academy, and I read a script about the Navajo Code Talkers. And I was absolutely fascinated, especially because I'd never heard of their heroism and their patriotism. And I was initially interested in telling the story as a feature film because that's my background. But then I realized it was more important to hear from the men themselves and not have actors play them while they were still alive.
Valerie Redhorse talks about the remarkable legacy of Wilma Mankiller.
When Gail and I decided to make the film about Wilma's life, it continued our passion for telling stories that we feel history books may have ignored or certainly not covered appropriately in this country. And Wilma's leadership is one of those where many people might know her name, but not understand her legacy of incredible servant leadership. I think today's message that resonates so much is her ability to work with all types of people, not be divisive. She reached across the aisle. She worked with Democrats and Republicans. She worked with Native Americans and international entities. And really her goal was to serve her people and empower women and those that were underserved in general. And I just think her leadership style is something that we all can learn from.
Gail Ann Hurd believes these Native stories have lessons for all.
Well, I think the first thing was, as Valerie said, how shocking it is that we aren't learning about her. We aren't learning about the Navajo Code Talkers, the Choctaw Code Talkers, another film that Valerie and I did together in school. In history books. It's as if there are whole chapters that don't exist, and especially so with Indigenous women. And it was important to tell a story that was hopeful, that showed that a woman who went from living in a car with her children on her ancestral tribal homeland could, within less than a decade, become the principal chief of the Cherokee Nation, is a story I think everyone can relate to. But there are so many heroes in the Native and Indigenous worlds that we've never learned about, that I felt it was really important to make sure that we could document them and leave this legacy for all time.
Like many documentaries, Mankiller has a message for change.
I want to say that one of the things I've really enjoyed about making documentaries with Gail is the ability to have a social impact message, some sort of call to action. So we were involved in the legislative action to get the Code Talkers recognized with our first film, which was amazing. With Mankiller, we partnered with a few organizations that promote women running for office, which we think is extremely important. And right now, I've been asked to direct a project on the murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls on a global basis. You know, it's occurring not just in America and Canada, but in other Indigenous communities. And I'm working on a project that has a very strong call to action for a national database and more legislative action, as well as more law enforcement attention.
That was the creative team behind Mankiller, activist, feminist, Cherokee chief, now streaming on Apple. When we come back, meet the female lead from Reservation Dogs. The second season of Reservation Dogs is nearly upon us. ICT's editor Jordan Bennett-Begay asked breakout star Paulina Alexis how the year went for her following the show's release.
It's been great, man. I just been home. I'm doing the same thing this year. I'm going to play hockey. It's my last year. Well, if I register before I turn 22, then I can play. But it's my last year junior, and I'm playing junior A this year, probably with Edmonton Wolves. And then when it comes to like tournament season, I'll be coaching again. Be coaching all the nieces and nephews and stuff. And
Oh, wow, that'd be fun.
yeah, award show's coming up. Press is coming up. It's about to get busy again. Yeah, everything's been great. I still got my horses. I sold mine actually, and I'm picking up more today after all my interviews today. So.
Oh my goodness! Well, there's so much.
Skating later. I'm already training for hockey season. I'm going skating today.
Along with acting, Alexis has lots of other interests, including playing competitive hockey.
Yeah, I started when I was like 4. My mom and dad put me on skates when I was 4. And then we moved to the res, so I couldn't really play as much. Couldn't really afford it, so like I didn't play anything till like I was like 9. Then we'd be going to all my brother's games and like all my cousins' games, and then I'd be like, Mom, I want to play hockey, and I'm just the only girl. And my mom put me back into it when I was like 9. I played with boys, and then I stopped playing for like 2 years, and then I got back into it when I was 12. And yeah, I've always been in love with hockey, like ever since I was a kid. Like, I remember I made my dad pick up a net on the side of the road. Like someone in the res, like someone just threw a net in the ditch, and like I remember I was asking my dad for a net for the longest time, and he picked it up for me, and we slapped it in the back. We just tied all those holes together in the net, and it was just like brand new. And then I learned on that. And like I just grinded in my basement for like a year. I got like some cheap Value Village rollerblades for like $5, and then I would just rollerblade and shoot out my cheap net. And then like by the next year, I was like the best on my team. I was like leading in points and everything. Before that, I was like so bad. I was like the worst on my team.
Alexis talks about how taking care of the animals can help heal her people.
I really want to bring horses back to like our people, and because like our youth in in Canada, like they struggle with a lot of addictions, but like horses, they really like they keep you busy, and they give you like a responsibility and like a purpose, and like I think that will really help our youth at the same time too. Because like I always wanted friggin' horses when I was a kid, but like we never had nowhere to put them or anything. So like that's what I want to do. I want to like build like a barn and track on our reserve, so like kids can start having horses there and taking care of them, like see them riding every day and stuff like that. I think that would be cool.
Alexis also has plans to begin making her own films and, of course, devote more time to hockey.
I have multiple dreams. Like, I want to be a filmmaker. Like, I want to direct, produce one day for sure. Like, I know I'm going to be making my own movies one day. And, like, I just want to take my life slow and, like, be happy. Like, I want to coach. I want to be able to ride horses still. And, yeah. I have a lot of dreams. And, like, I didn't think I'd still be playing hockey now, but like I am. Like if I was like 17, I'd probably be like, I'm probably not going to be playing by the time I'm 22, but I'm still playing now. So like, that's a good thing.
Oh
Like
no,
usually
that's
everyone
good.
hangs up their skates when they're done, when they like after they turn 18.
And although she couldn't share a whole lot about the next season, she did say how it felt to return to the Res Dogs set.
It felt so good to see everyone again, but then like it felt like once we got all together, it like felt like we haven't even like left each other. Like the vibes were just up there again, and it was like we just seen them like yesterday. And like what I like a lesson I think I learned is, especially with Res Dogs, I don't really like to rehearse. If that makes sense. Like I like doing everything as natural as I can and like on the spot. I don't know if you can notice it, but yeah, they'd be rehearsing a couple times and I'd be like, I can't really rehearse that much because like most of my lines are improv, right? I have to like feel it on the spot and like do it that way. So that's like one of the lessons I took that I realized when I was doing season 2.
You can stream the new season of Reservation Dogs on Hulu. When we come back, the only Native-owned TV station in Oklahoma turns 10. Cheyenne and Arapaho Television celebrates its 10th anniversary this summer. It is Oklahoma's only tribally owned and operated TV station. Last week, Aaliyah Chavez spoke with senior content producer Darren Brown about its humble beginnings.
Well, we are under the Department of Education, but what we do is we cover a lot of tribal events like powwows and groundbreakings and ribbon cuttings, and that's exciting because that means progress. Whenever the tribe wins awards, we do things like that. We've done a short, an hour-long documentary, and we produced a kids show called Fry Bread Flats a few years back, and we are currently working on a second season of that. We have a 30-minute show called Indian Road, which is kind of like a just cool stuff that natives around this state are doing, and we are in developing a live Zoom-based interview show. So we've got a lot of irons in the fire right now.
Training the next generation is important.
Right now, at least for another few days, we have an intern with us today. He's been with us for a couple of weeks through the summer youth program that the tribe puts on. Over the years, we've had half a dozen high school students in here. And I really thought that 10 years in that we would have some Cheyenne and Arapaho students graduating from college with degrees in broadcast, mass communications, whatever. And that hasn't happened. And I suppose I could find that discouraging. I just feel like I haven't pushed it hard enough. I do preach the native TV gospel every place I go. And you know yourself that I preach it at Naja all the time. And, there are numbers out there that show that the percentage of Native people working in television is about half of 1%, less than 1%. Now, I'm not kidding myself that we'll ever get to 20 or 30, but Aaliyah, we should be able to get to 3 or 4 or 5%. And I'm not going to quit until we make that happen. I just think that if as Native people, if we are not there to advocate for our stories, then those stories don't get told. And if they don't get told, people don't understand and don't care. Not that they don't care, but they didn't know the story was there to be cared about. And when they do, things change.
Congratulations, CATV, on your 10th anniversary. When we come back, the young star of Prey reflects on her calling. Amber Midthunder is a Fort Peck Sioux actress from New Mexico. Growing up with an actor father and casting director mother, she began her on-screen career early in life. Midthunder is the star of the upcoming Predator prequel called Prey. It is the first film to be released in the Comanche language. It's available for streaming on Hulu. She talks about the significance of her work.
I'm not out there like making laws or, like helping sick people or anything like that as far as like community work, but I do feel like there I find meaning in this job in exactly that way, that I think the way that Native people are represented and creating even just like job space for Native people, like hopefully movies like this or shows like Reservation Dogs and Rutherford Falls are doing, where it's like showcasing Native talent and how valuable that is as a resource. Because it's like you go back and we are historically like storytellers. That's like a hugely untapped resource for specifically this. And then the way that what good or bad representation can impact our people is so huge. So to be involved in that is like that's my like Navy SEAL, I feel like, purpose in like my career is I'm an actor, but really I'm doing this. So that's like, those are my goals.
Midthunder's character is Naru.
She goes back and forth between believing in herself really intensely and then kind of wavering, like there's a point in the movie specifically when she's like, man, maybe I did like mess up. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this. And I feel like that kind of thing is something that I relate to a lot personally, where it's like there's moments, and I think everybody has that, where you're like, no, I know what I'm doing, and you feel so strong and so grounded in the direction that you're moving in. And then all of a sudden you get scared and you're like, well, maybe this isn't right. Like maybe I should quit, or maybe I'm whatever. And then you realize like, no, I can be everything that I think I can and everything that I want to be. And that's what I love about her. And especially like for Indigenous women to see as like a strong female figure, even as something as like a Predator movie, which is so like, it's like entertaining and all this stuff, but it's also like, it represents so much more than that.
Filming Prey brought on many new challenges.
It was just every day trying the absolute hardest. Like every day just waking up, and there was so much, I think for everybody who was involved, there was so much on everybody's plate, like the mental health side of things, of like being in a place like that away from our loved ones and dealing with whatever in our personal lives that we were dealing with, but then also having this like big workload of like, to me, the representation element was like never lost on how important that was. And like, I wanted to do that. Like for some reason, they picked me to do this, and I wanted to do that to the very best that it could possibly be done. And like and then it was like, there's action and there's story and there's all this stuff. So it's like all those things, it was really just like focusing on the now, like what was immediately in front of you, and just like taking it step by step and like doing each thing that is right in front of you.
Prey is based in the 1700s, and Midthunder talks about the themes of the movie.
There's a lot of elements that I'm really proud of. I think one is the relatability that I think and the representation. So having a look inside of not just an Indigenous culture, but like a period piece Indigenous culture. Like you have kind of pictures of like the shows that I mentioned, that it's like Reservation Dogs and like Rutherford Falls. It's like those are both modern looks at like urban, Native society or res society or whatever, but it's modern day. Whereas this is all the way back in 1719. And so to represent Native people as still very human and intelligent and filled with different personalities and different, dynamics between people, like that I'm really proud of. And I think that's not something that you get a lot. And then just the idea that Native women have something to look at and feel like they can identify with and be like, wow, I can be strong and I can accomplish so much. Or like for res kids to like look at movies like this and have like tons of faces who look like theirs, that they can go like, wow, I can accomplish whatever I want to, and know that their space is needed and is valuable, like whether they want to be actors or writers or producers or run their own company or whatever. It's like there's so much that we can do, and the more that space is taken up and that next generation see that, I feel like the more they'll believe that they have value. And to me, that's really important.
That was the star of Prey, Amber Midthunder, streaming now on Hulu. The world premiere of the season 2 of Reservation Dogs was held at the River Spirit Casino in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Caitlin Boycell reports.
Oh, thank you for your donation. Excuse me for my beauty now, for I shall give you some ancient Native American wisdom here.
Fans waited eagerly to see the stars from Reservation Dogs and get a glimpse of season 2. The teens face many challenges, including growing up, cursing, and of course, getting help from aunties and uncles. Bobby Wilson, one of the creatives in the all-native writers' room, told us that humor is used to address serious issues in Indian country.
You have to actually address these things. But what we do in the writing of this show and in the creation of this series is we talk about things without actually talking about them. We show how people live and how people are dealing with the aftermath of these types of traumas.
Willie Jag has some of the best comebacks in the series. Paulina, Alexis, the actor who plays her, says Sterling Harjo, the co-creator of the series, encouraged her to improvise.
Well, yes, there is a script, but Sterling did give me the freedom to say whatever I want and whatever I want. Whatever Willie Jack would say, I would save your life, so.
This kind of classic Native humor really resonates with the audience at the premiere.
We got our own humor.
It was really funny, so I related to it so much.
Absolutely amazing.
Now fans can only hope that season 3 will get that same treatment. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, Caitlin Onawa, Voice Cell, ICT.
I just have to say, it's a great time to be Indigenous with Mankiller, Reservation Dogs, and Prey all new to streaming services this week. And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit ictnews.org. From all of us at Indig Public Media, stay safe, my relatives. I'm Mackenzie Allen Charmley.
Sometimes you got to take a stand, just because you know you can. Oh, you got to run, you got to run.
The ICT Newscast is produced by Indig Public Media. This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.